My name is Hannah Baker. I am the State Specialized Agent for Beef and Forage Economics here at the Center. And today we have two guests from the Florida Cattlemen's Association, one being our current president, Mr. Rick Moyer, and the second being Dusty Holley. And I will let him explain all of the titles that he holds. He plays a key role in the association, and we're very grateful for the work that both of them are doing currently. So just to kind of set the stage for what's going to happen today, we're going to let them speak for about 45 minutes, and at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. For those on Zoom, if you want to put your questions in the chat, please feel free to do so. You're also welcome to unmute yourself at the end if you'd like to ask your question that way. And then once our speakers are done and we've answered all of the questions, I'll share my screen with those on Zoom to talk about upcoming events we're going to have here in the center and around this area for some extension programs. And then once the Zoom closes off, a short survey will be sent out to those on Zoom. So if you don't mind taking that, we would really appreciate that. So I think that's all the introductory stuff. So without further ado, I will let Mr. Rick and Mr. Dusty take the floor.
Yeah, so good morning. My name is Rick Moyer. I'm president of the Florida Cattlemen's Association. I'm a first generation cattleman. Grew up in Volusia County, DeLand, Florida. Worked my way through high school and went to University of Florida in '92. Went work down there at Deseret for a few years, and I currently reside in Marion County. Been there for the last 30 years or so in the cattle business in one fashion or another. I have a few of my own cattle, manage a ranch for some other people, and that's about it for my history as far as introductions for myself. How about you, Dusty?
Sure, I'm Dusty Holley, and I'm a seventh generation Floridian. My family's been here and had cattle since about the 1820s, so we've been here a long time. We ranch in Central Florida. I, of course, was very involved in our family's operation, and 4-H and mostly FFA had a big part of shaping my future. I was a state FFA officer, and I went to University of Florida and graduated there in animal science, and spent some time in graduate school there as well. But I got an opportunity. I was on a path to be a professor of animal science, like many of you that are in the room here, I'm sure, on a path on. And but I deviated from it. I ended up in Washington, D.C., and I worked for a congressional office for a number of years, and tried to do what was best for the industry in that role. And in 2012, the Florida Cattlemen's Association came and brought me home and hired me to be director of field services. And I served in that role until April of this year, where Rick and Dale Carlton, president at the time, and the group of leaders, after the retirement of our longtime executive vice president, Jim Hanley, when he retired, they asked me to step into that role, as well as some other roles. And a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of entities under that kind of FCA umbrella. There's Florida Cattlemen's Association, which is I'm the executive vice president of. We have a foundation, which is our 501c3. I'm executive director there, executive director of the Florida Cow PAC, which is our political action committee. Chief operating officer of the Florida Cattle Enhancement Board, which is where we are able to put a lot of research and promotion monies from the state of Florida back into cattle and production research. And I'm also the managing editor of the Florida Cattlemen and Livestock Journal now. So I wear a lot of hats. I'm bald. That's probably why they make me wear so many hats. But it's a rewarding career and a great industry, and I'm proud to be here in front of you all today. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think I wanted to go over kind of what my initiatives are this year. I put a lot of emphasis on being a first generation cattleman, and in my presidency, and I can't remember a time when I didn't want to be a cowboy in my lifetime. I cannot remember, from the youngest age I've been there to, I can't remember I didn't want to be a cowboy. So I didn't know how I was going to do that, right? But I just got to hanging around good cow folks and just good people, right? And they took me in, put their arms around me, just kind of led the way for me. And I've been, I can't tell you how grateful I am to be able to help lead the way for Florida Cattlemen's Association, what that means to me. So with that, I want to go over kind of what my initiatives are for this year. And if there's one thing I have learned since I've been involved with FCA is we have to have a strong membership. Without strong membership and members, we can't be very effective. And we need to be effective in Tallahassee and in Washington. What I didn't realize back in the time, what I call before the meetings mattered, when I was really young and didn't pay much attention, is I didn't realize what FCA actually does for not just for its members, but for the whole state of Florida and property rights and your rights as a cattleman, cattlewoman, or you don't even have to own a cow, and FCA's out there fighting for your rights. And that starts in Tallahassee. We have Sam Ard is our legislative liaison up there in Tallahassee, does a wonderful job. He's been there for years, and can't say enough good things about him. But in order for him to be effective in helping our industry, we have to have members, strong membership. And so my theme this year is lead the way. And lead the way is not just a theme or a hashtag. It's really a call to action. And I'm asking everybody that is a member to go out and try to get new members, or some of those members that may have dropped off and haven't participated in a while. Maybe see what's going on in their lives, checking on them, and if they'd like to be a member again. Again, it's super important. And my next initiative ties in with this closely and member involvement. Actually, we've got a lot of members out there that we know that can't necessarily take the time off to be volunteers, like some of us. And I've been blessed to be able to do that. I'm very thankful. But there's a lot of people out there that can't, and that's okay. FCA has a full-time staff in Kissimmee. And there's literally hundreds of volunteers in this organization out there working for our industry every day. So if you can't get involved and come to our quarterlies and get involved as you might want to, then the best way to support the industry that we love so much is just simply be a member. Your membership counts. You still have a voice. You can still call the office, you can call me, you can call any of the officers, you can call anybody in our industry. And if there's an issue that you can't spend time handling, we'll get on it for you. We just had a call today of a certain county. Let me back up a little bit, because when I talk, I like to tell people what they're getting for their membership. And one of the membership I mentioned, membership perks that you get is FCA is constantly fighting for property rights, fighting against government overreach. And we don't get into these big, huge battles and fight, but if we see something coming down the pike that we think may hurt our industry, well, we're going to address it, along with some of the good things that we want to happen. We try to fend off things that may not necessarily be beneficial to us. So we got a call today just on the way down here in a county that guy's trying to do some things agriculturally, and it seems like he's getting some trouble. So we're just going to check on, look at it and see if there's anywhere we can help. But those things are constantly happening, and without strong membership and membership involvement, it makes it pretty weak. But we're strong. I will say this from a membership participation. There's also, just like me, I didn't necessarily know how to get involved, right? I had a lot of friends that were in the industry, but as far as getting involved at state level or whatever, I just wanted to participate somehow, and so I just started going to the quarterlies, right? And next thing you know, somebody's asking me to do something. Hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Well, sure, I'll get involved. And I just showed up. So we're asking, I'm asking folks that if you can come to a quarterly meeting, just come to one And I think they'll be very impressed, and I think they'll stay involved at that point because you just don't know what goes on in the on the background of this association and all the people that are working hard for you and our industry. And then those that, like I said earlier, they may not have a cow. We're benefiting them too. But if you don't know how to get involved, I can tell you, just show up and you'll get involved. So you got anything to add to that one?
Sure, I think it's good to think about. A lot of folks say, what do organizations like the Cattlemen Association do? What is if you have to have an elevator speech, real quick, and they say, well, what does the association do? And it's quickly that we fight every day to make sure Florida continues to be a great place to raise cattle, right? And we all know about the environmental sustainability that ranching provides, working lands provide, the green spaces, right? The cleaning of waters, all these positive environmental sustainability practices that help everybody. But those ranchers, those farmers, those agriculturalists, they're not able to stay in business unless they're economically sustainable, right? If they're losing money on their operations, they can't continue to operate, and they can't provide the environmental sustainability that everybody enjoys. So a big part of what we do is we try to make sure that our industry is economically sustainable. And we do that by educating the educators and working with decision makers in Tallahassee, in Washington, D.C., those decision makers that make decisions that could positively or negatively impact the economic sustainability of our industry. That's really the nexus where we come in there. And if you're a rancher and you're busy on your ranch, or you have a job in town and you have some cattle on the side, you don't have time every single day to be in Tallahassee or Washington, D.C. and monitoring that stuff, right? You don't have time every day to go to a water management district meeting or to participate in those things. So that's what our staff and our association does. So if you're paying $150 dues, quick cowboy math tells me that's 42 cents a day. So you can spend 42 cents a day and have these professionals that are out there working for you. If you have to hire somebody to be in Tallahassee full time, you've got to hire somebody, a water engineer, to work on water projects for your ranch. It's going to cost a lot more than 42 cents a day, right? And so that's a pretty good investment in an organization that's doing that work for you. If you're a collegiate member, which is $100, I mean, that's only 27 cents a day, right? To work on this industry that you want to be a part of. It's a really, really small investment. Plus, it's not very hard for me to call Rick and say, hey, Rick, I did 42 cents worth of work today, right? That's not a big goal to reach. I say that tongue in cheek, but if you think about it, it's an excellent value for your level of support and what you get out of it. Because let's talk about a win we had a few years ago. We were able to get sales tax exemptions on agricultural trailers, right? Livestock trailers, flatbed trailers that you might haul tractors on, etc. We were able to get a sales tax exemption on that and get a sales tax exemption on fencing. So if you spend $2,500 a year on fencing materials, whatever, you've already made back enough money to pay your cattlemen's dues. We had an individual who called us last year and he said, oh, Dusty, I saw that there was something about a trailer and I just bought this really, really nice trailer and they charged me sales tax on my loan and everything on it. And I don't think that was right. So I called the guy that we work with, Tom Bryant, who's very well versed in this stuff. I said, Tom, what should this man do? And he said, tell him to go back and I'll get on the phone with him. So the fellow went back to where he bought the trailer and he got, this is no joke, he got enough money back to pay his cattleman's dues for 17 years. Okay, on that one purchase. And that was a direct
very,
thing.
very nice trailer.
It was a very, very, very nice trailer, absolutely. But I'm just saying, those are the type of things that we do that show real monetary value to ranchers. But aside from that, there's that protection, that's speaking with the unified voice in DC, that's speaking with the unified voice in Tallahassee that our organization provides. So like Rick said, it's important. We always need more members. We always need committed members. If you care about working lands, if you care about green space, we're a pretty cheap investment to help keep that around.
I want to emphasize one thing. I had a guy that's, and you don't know this yet, Dusty, I don't mention his name, but he's in our organization. I think he has 2 cows. This guy is a go-getter, and he loves our industry. And he made a comment to me the other day. It says, 10 years ago or so, somebody had come up to him and said, being a cattleman, you only have a couple head, you're not going to be able to make a difference. So you're wasting your time. And that hit me right here and he told me these things because I don't know who told him that, but that's the absolute opposite of what we're about. I don't care. You don't even have to have a cow, in my opinion. We want you and we need you to be a member, and we're happy. We'll embrace you. So if anybody's out there listening that thinks that they're too small and their voice won't make a difference, they're wrong. Absolutely wrong. So we want you to come to the meetings. We want you to be a part of it. And this guy here is an absolute, what I'm talking about, I think.
Sure.
Absolute go-getter, and this man's on fire and loves our industry and works hard for it. So let me see. So another thing I wanted to emphasize here is the NCBA. We're closely affiliated with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Our views closely aligned with theirs. And I can tell you, I've been to Washington. I've been to the NCBA meetings, summer meetings, and we have a crack staff in NCBA fighting for our rights across this country. And we won't spend a terrible amount of time. I think they had a dues change recently and they've lost some members, but I think anytime an organization has dues changes, they go through this. We went through it. But Florida's well represented there, and we're looking to lift our membership up again. But and I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I will say this: when it comes to property rights, one of the best examples that we can have, if you look up the Maude, M-A-U-D-E family in South Dakota and see what they just went through the past 2 years. And it was a big government overreach case where they had a fence. A lot of land out west is rented. They lease land from BLM. And I think they were leasing from the Department of Forestry. And a hunter was hunting on that property and got on his little phone there and noticed that there was a discrepancy in the fence line, what the Maude family was calling their land and what he was calling public land. Well, they got together with the forestry department, the Maudes did, and was, very forthcoming in whatever they were going to try to fix this. And by the way, these things happen all the time, and most of the time they're fixed very easily. I mean, the fence line was drawn way back 100 years ago, and I think the waypoints were rocks and trees.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously there's going to be some mistakes with today's technology. Anyhow, they got, I don't know if they got arrested, but they were taken to court separately. So they had to get two separate lawyers. This is a husband and wife. So where they couldn't talk to each other about the case, they had to get 2 separate attorneys, and it's a big deal. Anyway, NCBA got involved, and along with I know a lot of other people, but NCBA did help them, and they finally gotten rid of that case. But they were facing 10 years in prison over a 1800s fence line.
On that type of thinking, we're making an effort to make our opening general sessions at our meetings very informative to members. So if you were at convention and you went to the opening general session, you heard the wonderful Hannah Baker give an update on market conditions, and you heard Dr. Andrew Short give a talk about New World Screwworm. So they were very well attended, great opening general session, very informative. So we have committed to do that moving forward. Well, in September, we have a great speaker, and we'll circle back that. But I just wanted to point this out. In December, already on our calendar is Ethan Lane. Ethan is the person that's in charge of the whole NCBA DC staff. So he's going to be there talking about the work that they do on a national level with senators and congressmen and the executive branch and the work that they do. It's going to be a great talk, a great chance to work with one of our top staff members at the national level. And he's going to be there in December. But in September, the opening general session over in Okeechobee, that's going to be a neat thing too. We talked about the environmental sustainability of the ranches, right? And we talked about the importance of the economic sustainability. But something that we don't talk about very often is the sustainability of our own people, right? Is the sustainability of our own people. And so Rick, President Moyer, you want to tell them a little bit about Marshall and Mind Your Melon? And
Yeah, sure. So one of my initiatives, Dusty and I were on the FCLA class trips last year. In our last trip, we got a phone call and discussing this Mind Your Melon thing, and I'm going, what? He was kind of clued in about some of it, and I was just overhearing the conversation. But Marshall Sewell has started a foundation called Mind Your Melon. I don't want to get too spoil his thunder too much, but and he's bringing mental health awareness to people in agriculture. I did hear a statistic the other day on a news program that agriculture has the highest rate of suicide
behind veterans.
Behind veterans, yeah. And so anyway, it's hard. Mental health issues are kind of hard to talk about for some people, or I would dare to say most. But it doesn't always have to be about suicide. It could be anything.
Depression.
Depression, anxiety, or just what you go through in a day. The stress and all that. And it's just he's bringing to light mental health issues, and we're going to start the conversation in agriculture. So I thought this would be a great idea to bring to our Florida cattlemen. Florida cattlemen aren't exempt from having mental health issues. So Marshall's going to come speak at the opening general session in September 4th. And we hope that everybody will be there to see it. So
yeah, we think it's going to be a great program. Marshall's been recognized nationally for this work. This isn't just a fly-by-night. This Mind Your Melon Foundation has really taken off. It's going to do good things it's been doing good things for agriculture, and we just want to be supportive. But I think if you want to hear a great speech and something that'll impact as we move forward, I think that'll be a great one, September 4th, to hear there in Okeechobee.
Yeah. So another one of my initiatives this year, and it's never, I think it's always on each FCA president's mind, is Florida Cattlemen's Foundation. Florida Cattlemen's Foundation, we promote leadership, education, heritage, and research, and disaster relief, those types of things. Back probably 12, 15 years, time gets by, but there was a push to have our foundation herd where individuals can donate one calf or the proceeds from one calf to the foundation. And back when Eric Jacobson was president, he made another push to get that up to 100. His goal was to get to 100 members. And the idea back then, calves were worth about $1,000 pretty consistently. And so he was wanting to try to make a 100 head herd where basically the foundation could get $100,000 a year, and to get, to help the foundation. That's been supported through the years quite well. I think the highest year we got was close to 85 calves, so to speak, in the herd. And it's down. I think we've got about 45 participating members now, people that are contributing, and we're going to try to make another push for that. Florida Cattlemen's Foundation is a philanthropic arm of the FCA that does wonderful things, scholarships. We've donated money. Heck, we've donated money here at Ona, I believe.
Yeah, this building we're in has this Florida Cattlemen's Foundation sign, some of the grad student housing.
Yeah.
Behind us, I don't know if they can see it in the screen or not. But
University
absolutely.
of Florida Teaching Unit. They donate to that. They, all over the place, and they donate to the FCLA class every year, which is an awesome thing that we do. They're just a good organization. And this year, we've got a new committee, the Disaster Response and Relief Committee. and it is a genuine committee now that we put into place where FCA has been responding to these hurricanes and disasters for years now. I think we're just going to get a little more organized, but they've donated some money here recently to get some radios and some medical aid packs together. But I want to encourage anybody that feels it in their heart to donate a cab. And prices are even up higher. So, this year they were from Eric.
Yeah, the foundation heard is, we have a lot of folks that are committed and say they want to do it, but there's a lot of dry cows out there, I guess, because the calves don't always show up, but that's fine. We know how that goes. But yeah, it's really simple. If you want to join the foundation herd, like President Moyer says, you haul a calf to the livestock market, you can sell him in the Florida Cattlemen's Foundation name, and those livestock markets will send us a check. You can send us a check if you sell them by the truckload and say, well, my calves averaged about this much, and you can send it to us that way. Folks, some people retain ownership and they've sent us what they've earned on a calf at the end of that whole cycle. We've got people that have given us the value of a replacement heifer in the past. Really, any donation you want to make under the foundation herd, we're more than willing to accept. We used to always joke, we take an old blind goat and sell it and make sure that we got a little bit of money for your donation. So that's exactly right. The foundation herd is a really neat way for ranchers to participate in an entity that does a lot of good. And you mentioned the Florida Cattlemen's Leadership Academy. You're fresh off of that last class. What was that, class 11?
The best class.
Yeah. So maybe tell them a little bit about that experience.
Yeah. So I went on it back when we're discovering today, but it's around 98 when I went on it. It was called the YCC, the Young Cattlemen's Conference. And it was an absolute wonderful opportunity for me we'd drive for a solid week. We'd go to different ranches and we see their operations and we meet people and connect with them and just kind of learn about the industry. We learned a little bit about, how the FCA was structured, and it was just a great opportunity for me. But when Dusty got hired in 2013, 2012, a year or so later, he started the FCLA, which is he just ramped up the YCC. That's what he did. And now in the year of the incoming, the president-elect gets to go with the group that year. And this past year was my year. And we have 12 of us, and there was about 20 applicants. And we have this issue every year. So not everybody gets selected every year, but I encourage people to still sign up and still try to get on, because we just have spaces for 12. And if you didn't get on last year, there's a good chance you get on this year. So just keep trying, but I digress on that. But however, we met 4 times this year. Where did we go, Dustin?
It's a year-long program, and we typically have a session in North Florida, one in Central Florida, one in South Florida, and then one in the Panhandle.
Yeah, and they really learn how the FCA is structured. The idea of the whole program is to get young people involved in our association so that they can become future leaders. And
there's quite a bit of leadership development, media training, some industry training, but it's much more developing folks that we've graduated over 100 people in the class, and we've actually got 2 or 3 in the officer rotation already that are FCLA graduates, starting to bear fruit there. But the real thing there is, if we can produce folks that are really good, strong leaders at the local level, at least, we've strengthened the industry greatly, right? And that's the real impact it's had, is it's created some really strong county leaders, some really strong committee chairs. And I think that's where it's making a great impact. Some of them will go on and become the president, absolutely. But the majority of them are just really solid backbone of a grassroots organization, which is local music.
Yeah, and I could tell you this, it was awesome for me, but because I love to meet new people, and most of these people that were on that FCLA class this year, I didn't know, or if I did, I just acquainted with them. And by the time you're done with this class, you'll have a strong bond of friends forever, and contact forever, if nothing else. So I encourage to nominate yourself or nominate someone you know that would be interested in going on that.
And while that's funded by the foundation, there's some really strong supporters like Florida Heritage Beef and Merck. They're big sponsors of that program and the events that happen. So we certainly couldn't do it without folks like that helping.
Let's talk about the Cow Pack, Dusty.
Sure.
So we have a Cow Pack Political Action Committee that raises money so that we can fight to elect and re-elect positions that fight on our behalf up in Tallahassee. That's the Florida Cow Pack. That is not a federal pack at all. It just belongs to the states here in Florida. Again, I can't stress enough, if we weren't active and involved in Tallahassee, this industry would be in trouble. There's people out there that they don't want to see animal agriculture succeed. They'd rather see it go to the wayside. There are laws that are made or attempted to be made with unintended consequences that will affect us. So in other words, the law didn't mean, if they pass it, didn't mean that they wanted to hurt agriculture, but turns out with the language that it will. So we kind of circumvent stuff like that. And then there's those intended consequences that we stay away from or try to steer away from. So we have fundraisers. Our main fundraiser every year is a bull. People sell bull credits at our annual convention, and that's been our main focus for fundraising for the past years. A few years ago, President Pat Durden challenged the officer team to come up with another fundraiser, because as our state changes, and it's changing right before our eyes, more people are coming in here and less know about agriculture and the cattle industry specifically. So, and there's a need for more PAC funds. So he asked us to come up with another fundraiser. So we all got together and we developed this, what we call the FCA Fun and Gun. And we had it was last February at the barn at Mazak Ranch. We had 300 plus people there from all over the state, cattlemen and women, and people that aren't cattlemen and women. Businesses from all over the state showed up. We had a blast and raised it. I didn't know it was going to be a flop or not, but it was our first one. But it was
the inaugural.
It was the inaugural Fun and Gun, and it produced big for us. We've got some momentum. I've heard a lot of positive response from it. People who really want to get involved again this year, those that got involved last year, and those that didn't make it and heard about it, they're chomping at the bit to get there. So that's going to be March the 7th at the Florida State Fairgrounds this year. So there'll be more coming out about that in the magazine in the future. So I encourage all y'all to, if you want to participate, just give the office a call or me a call, and we'll hook you up. What you got next, Tallahassee board?
Sure, we can roll into that, but just the Cow Pack is something that we're very proud of. As compared to other agriculture organizations, we're kind of a leader on that front, and it is so very important. So, if you're out there, those present with us and those out there on the call today, if you find it something you think that could really make a difference, the Cow Pack is a good place for some of those monies to go. Absolutely. And there's some real creative, fun ways we raise that money. The Fun and Gun, the bull sale convention is a lot of fun too. So it seems like everything that around the pack is enjoyable. And so that's quite a fun part of it. If you want to be involved in something that we have a lot of fun while also doing some good, the pack's a neat place to be involved. Sure.
Tell them a little bit about the history on the
Tallahassee. Sure.
How that started.
Absolutely. So y'all know that since the 80s, there's been the Florida Beef Council has been around a lot longer than that as a voluntary program. But since the 80s, there's been a national act and order that says if a bovine animal is sold, so like all these calves leaving on today on those trucks, there'll be $1 from each one of them that'll go towards beef promotion and research. And 50 cents of it will stay in the state of Florida, be managed by the Florida Beef Council. And 50 cents will go nationally and be managed by the Cattlemen's Beef Board, CBB, which has USDA oversight. And when they put that in the late 80s, a dollar was worth a little bit more than a dollar's worth now, right? But there's been still a lot of positives. We know that for every dollar invested in the beef checkoff, we've gotten over $13 for return on investment. So if I told any of you in this room or anybody on the call that if you put a dollar in your sock drawer and you opened it and there was $13 later, you'd put more than a dollar in there, right? Like you would try to grow that. And so in about 2015, 2016, we were working at ways to grow the work and also expand the type of research they were able to do into production research, not just beef research, but production research. So a group of individuals on the Florida Cattlemen's Association side decided to try to get a state checkoff where the dollar would go and 50 cents would stay in the state, 50 would go to CBB, but another dollar would stay in the state. So we got that passed through the House and we got that passed through the Senate of the state legislature, and we were rocking and rolling, and we were going to have a referendum, right? We were going to have a vote. We were going to have a vote to see if cattlemen wanted to pay this. That's what we were working on. Well, we went to visit then Governor Rick Scott, now Senator.
And a caveat to that would be, we would, if it passed, the state would take $1 from every calf sold. But if the producer didn't want to participate, he'd get his dollar back.
Yeah, there was a refund clause where where you could say, no, I want that dollar back, and it would come back to you. There was a refund clause, absolutely. It was going to the state one. The federal one is not. The federal one is mandatory, but there was going to be a refund clause on the state. Okay, so we went in. They were talking to Governor Scott about it, just to make sure that as we were moving through the process, he was supportive, and he said, well, I kind of see this as a tax. I understand that you guys say it's not a tax because it's our own money, industry funded, right, being spent on marketing, handled by industry people. But we understood that was just political talk and thought. He said, I would be supportive, though, of just if the appropriators would appropriate some money towards this. It doesn't have to be collected from your industry. The state can give you this money, your taxpayers, and we can let you manage some taxpayer money. So we very graciously got some monies from the state, and we formed this new organization called the Florida Cattle Enhancement Board, which I operate as the chief operating officer of that organization. And it's separate, very separate. It's in the sunshine, which means all of our meetings are public, right? It means that they have to be very careful who those board members talk to about Cattle Enhancement Board business, about the people who want to do research, who they talk to in the process. But we started this Florida Cattle Enhancement Board, and we're able to do over the past 10 years about $10 million in research and promotion in Florida for the Florida beef cattle industry. Okay, about $10 million. Well, we've been doing our best, and we work really hard with the University of Florida and the cattlemen and the members of the Florida Cattle Enhancement Board. They represent all sectors of the industry, and they take their job very seriously. And we have done all that work for less than 2% administrative cost on our end, right? So the state of Florida says, wow, nobody does such a good job of managing this money like you guys do. You do all this great work and you do it for less than 2%. That's amazing. We want to continue to be supportive of you. So this past year in the legislature, the Florida Cattlemen's Association, again, different than the Enhancement Board, the Florida Cattlemen's Association was able to work with appropriators, and we were able to get $1.5 million for fiscal year 25 to 26, and they can get $2.5 million in reserves. So the Cattle Enhancement Board will have about $4 million. We put out an RFP, a request for proposal, in June. We received 86 proposals that want less than $100 from being $5.5 million is what the requests are. Now, like I told you, that 1.5 million is recurring. The 2.5 is kind of reserved. We can't get the 2.5 every year. So we're looking on, actually this Thursday is going to be our meeting where we're going to go, because all the proposals are in and the board's been looking at them. This Thursday, we're going to have the meeting where we're going to set that budget. And I anticipate the board can make a different decision. I anticipate that the board will probably allocate $2 to $2.5 million this year. We have to spend $1.5 million, and then they'll spend a percentage of that reserve this year so they can have the reserve for future years. But we'll probably spend about $2 to $2.5 million budgeted for promotion and research projects to be done in fiscal year 25-26. So that's a big shot in the arm to research in this state. It's a big shot in the arm to promotion of the beef cattle industry in this arm. But I think it's always very important to know that a big impetus for that, getting that money in the first place, was that we were going to do production research with it. And so while part of it will go to promotion and marketing, and that a big part of it will also go to research, because that was the goal anyway. But we try really hard to be great stewards of the money. We know that it's helped a lot of researchers across the state of Florida do some really great programs. And so it's really a pretty neat process. And that's what we're proud of, is that when Jim, my predecessor, when Jim and I, the first year, boy, we were pretty lost. You know, we'd never had any state money to put out there for research and do it. And we got through it, but it was hard, and we had to learn a lot. And now in those 10 years, we've built a really neat process. I think we have a really sound and strong process to review those proposals and to get the right ones funded at the right level. And I'm very proud of the work that the Cattle Enhancement Board does. And I'm looking forward to our meeting on Thursday to set the budget for the next year.
Yeah.
So
Dusty, on the reoccurring, let's just define that. It's a little misleading.
absolutely.
From the reoccurring standpoint, means we probably really don't have to go through the process to get it to the governor, but the governor, it's not guaranteed. The governor can veto it.
Well, kind of what it is, there's reoccurring means whenever that budget, so essentially what they do every year, the state, they look at their budget from the year before, and some things were projects that different legislators put in there, and others are kind of known, planned, recurring spending. So we've made it to the point where every year when that budget comes out of the House and the Senate, the $1.5 million will be there. Now, the House or the Senate can chop it out, right? The president or the senator, governor could veto it, right? It's not a guaranteed thing, but as far as making sure that it's in the budget to start with, that's a big hurdle we don't have to go through anymore. And that's $1.5 million. But legislators could take it out, the governor veto it. The Florida Cattlemen's Association is going to have to continue to educate and work with legislators to make sure they know how important that money is. But we've cleared a pretty big hurdle that we don't have to every year find somebody to make sure that they get it put in their appropriations. Now, the $2.5 million reserve, they have let us know, hey, this is not something that you guys should ask for or would be able to get every year. But if you ask for it every 3 to 5 years, we might be able to give it to you in reserve to help for some future planning as you move forward with these projects. So we're going to have to spend $1.5 million, and we hope we have that $1.5 million next year, and we can add a little bit of this $2.5 million every year to it to supplement and get some more good projects funded.
So we're getting close to ending, but I did want to give a little update. As some of you may or may not know, the New World screwworm has showed up in Mexico, and it's been inching its way north towards the Texas border. Last update we got was it's a little over 300 miles from the Texas border, 340 miles.
370.
370. And I haven't heard that it's inched closer. So we have been working with Dr. Short, the state veterinarian, in how we're going to respond to that. hoping that we won't have to. I'm hoping that they can keep it contained down there. They're putting, how many millions of flies they putting out every week?
I don't know, it ultimately it gets into the hundreds of millions, I think.
Per week.
Yeah.
Now we're pushing for, money to get a facility to produce our own flies, sterile flies. Sterile flies is, if you don't know, that's one main, way that they can help get rid of the.
That's how we eradicated it in the 60s.
Yep, and that's how we eradicated it in 2017.
Absolutely.
We had it in South Florida and the Keys. They take these sterile flies, they mate with the females, and then it's over. They lay unfertilized eggs, and then everybody dies. So that's one of the main controls. Another main control is movement. If you can control the movement of cattle that have it, it helps slow it down. But so anyway, we're looking to try to get a facility built somewhere in the United States to help produce those flies, to keep them off our border, away from the United States. Don't know what the situation is actually going to be. Only God knows that. But that is an update on the screwworm.
As we close and get ready for questions, I want to bring up a point that I think is very important. This organization that I work for, that Rick leads, was founded in 1934, and one of the biggest accomplishments they had to start with was getting this station that we're sitting at today started. And the Ona Research Station started in 1941. The faculty no longer has to milk the cow, which y'all probably heard that story, that whenever you were hired as a new faculty member here, you had to get on the cow milking schedule so that everybody would have fresh milk who lived out here. So that was a requirement for new faculty, and they don't have to do that anymore. Times have changed, but one thing that hasn't changed is the commitment that our organization has to this facility, and the return that we get from that facility for the industry. So before we closed and got into questions, Ona may be a small town and a blip on the map, but it's huge to the Florida cattle industry.
Oh, it is.
Producers from the Keys to Pensacola, when you say Ona, this is the place they think of, right? They think of this research station. And a big part of that is because of the great work that's come out of there. But an even bigger part of that is because we've always had a strong relationship. And we want to make sure that that continues moving forward. So that's something that we definitely wanted to put out there. We've been there since the beginning, and we plan to be here for the duration, as they say. So
that's it. So with that, I guess we'll take some questions if there are any.
Does anybody in-house have any questions before I look in the chat?
On the new screwworm, something that maybe we could use our mega phone FCA to talk with people up the food chain, USDA, etc. I spoke to a client I have in Belize just the day before yesterday. You know, concrete compounded wall around your house, in the backyard with your dog. Their dog gets a tick, was pulled off of a cow. Screwworms got in where just the minute little part where it ticks out. So it's a good problem. I can just speak to Belize, but they haven't seen the first sterile fly. We might be thinking about helping.
So this is, you want me to do this? So this is why, so for years and years, there, the Darien Gap is where we produce flies and kept them at bay. Okay, and that's the only place, unfortunately, as time goes on and people say, well, this is working, they quit producing sterile flies at other locations because they're like, we don't need any flies up here. That's 1,000 miles away. And so the only place producing flies was at the Darien Gap, right? They're producing flies and keeping it at bay. And they kept it at bay for almost 50 years, 40 something years down there. All right. And those flies there would be distributed in Central America and around, okay, because there was enough there. What has happened, and that facility was greatly funded by the United States, even though it was way down in Panama at the Darien Gap. it's essentially the colloquial R facility, right? And so as they think this was by people and animals illegally border crossing is what brought this by, and there you can get into a lot of political thought on why that happened or was allowed, okay? But the truth of the matter is they got through the Darien Gap. And so they can only produce so many flies. And so they've had to, unfortunately, shift any of the flies that were being used in Central America to try to keep it at bay and keep it from coming farther north into Mexico, because those are essentially United States flies produced by the United States government, and the United States government feels it more prudent to try to keep it from ever getting to the United States, rather than they just don't have enough flies right yet to protect Central America too. That's part of the reason why we push for these new facilities. If we can get these new facilities up and running, they can concentrate on fighting it in Mexico, and the ones at the Darien Gap can go back to Central America. So we're absolutely on that front, but it comes down to these are USDA created flies. We've got to use them to protect the United States cattle industry. But hopefully, when we get these other things done, we can then go back to drive it back. But I absolutely understand what you're saying, but
Our
that's the,
administration understands.
yes, they do, absolutely.
We met with Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, a few weeks ago, and we made it clear, and I think she was already on it, but we don't get to converse with those people every day. So when we had the chance, we made sure she knew what our thoughts were, and they're on. Oh, yeah. And so she's on it, and they're working on getting the money for the facility put out there. One thing I'll say is, from a Florida standpoint, we're all in, whatever we can do to help. We've got firsthand experience with it, probably the most recent. From our standpoint, we're working with our veterinarian to say, well, if this does get to Texas, what are we going to do?
Our state veterinarian.
Yeah, our state veterinarian, yeah. What are protocols Florida needs to have? So there's a lot of discussion on going about it. The first knee-jerk reaction that I got a lot of knee-jerk reactions until you stop to think about things. When we had screwworm back in 2017, nobody said you can't bring your cattle into our state. Okay, so one of the things that was, reiterated to me was, what we do to them, they're going to do to us. And we can't really afford to have our cattle stopped because somebody, but there's a lot to be thought of there. And there's some precautions that are on the books. Of course, I don't think they've come out with an absolute, this is what we're going to do, but we're getting real close to it. In fact, we were going to have a meeting with Dr. Short last week, but he had some, there was a death in his family. And
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're on it. We're on it. We're just trying to give you the update. I'm hoping it doesn't hit the States. As crazy as it sounds, it may not, but the one positive thing I will say about that is there's medicine today that they didn't have back in the day, that very effective and quick acting medicine that when you give it to them,
There's new baits out there. There's new technology. We certainly are going to push a lot to the sterile flag. You talk about eggs in a basket, like the sterile fly basket, because we know that works. But there's also some other novel things that should help. Right. I don't think it'll be smear 62 anymore.
Nobody knows what smear 62 is.
Smear 62 was this black tar paste that you would put on every animal's navel or any animal's cut or anything. And that's what I think folks don't understand about this, because it's not a disease, it's a pest. There's a disease, maybe there's a veterinary myeliosis, I think, or that's technically the disease of something eating live flesh. But it's not really a disease, it's a pest that it eats warm-blooded animals alive. So humans, dogs, cats, deer, coyotes, anything warm-blooded, it eats them alive. But it's a pest. It's not like a communicable disease. It's a pest. It's a bug. And so I think that's important too, because that's a little different than a communicable disease on how it's passed and how it's transferred, and therefore how you have to quarantine and how you have to stop movement, et cetera, is affected by that. Because it's not a communicable disease, it's pest.
Any other questions in-house? Okay, on Zoom, if you have a question, feel free to unmute. I don't see any in the chat, other than Dean Pringle said he enjoyed the meeting, and thank you to you both for the information, and be blessed. That's what he said.
Yes,
Be blunt.
be blessed.
Oh, be blunt.
Be blessed, not be blunt, be blessed.
And blunt.
Dr. Blunt, yeah, that's right. No
Okay.
more?
I don't see any other questions, so,
was
we'll go
easy.
ahead and wrap up. Do either of you have any closing remarks? Or
I'm gonna go back to, my hashtag or theme is lead the way. I appreciate everybody in our industry that's, leading the way to help protect our industry, and I'm gonna put in a plug for anybody out there listening or knows somebody that wants to come and be a part of this association to come to our, September quarterly. And, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And, if you can't make it to that one, make it to our December quarterly. If you can't make it to that one, I highly encourage you to come to our legislative quarterly. That's probably my favorite quarterly of the year.
I want to go through, so the September quarterly is September 4th and 5th in Okeechobee. September 4th and 5th in Okeechobee. The December quarterly is December 4th, one day. It's going to be a brand new try at a different format. Okay, we're going to try it in December. It'll be a one-day quarterly. We want you to stay for that evening stakeout, so you can probably spend the night that night and get up early the next day and go about your business. But you won't have any meetings on day two. Okay, one-day quarterly, December 4th in Ocala. Okay, December 4th in Ocala, and then January it's the 20th and 21st. 20th and 21st of the week of Martin Luther King holiday is the 20th and 21st in Tallahassee. And then the fourth meeting of the year is a little thing called convention down in Marco Island the week of June 22nd. So those are the big four Cattlemen's meetings. We also got the Fun and Gun March 7th at the State Fairgrounds. We got the Heifer Sale August 22nd at Arcadia Stockyard. There's other Cattlemen's events throughout the year, but those four big quarterlies are so important. That's where the real work of the association happens. September 4th and 5th, Okeechobee, December 4th, Ocala, January 2021, Tallahassee, and the week of June 22 at Marco Island. We'd love to have all of you there.
thank y'all. We did have one question from Gabrielle. She asked, why is there a separate Florida Cattle Women's Association?
I'll let you have that one.
Sure. So the Florida Cattlemen Incorporated started actually as an auxiliary organization called the Florida Cowbells. Okay, and they were an auxiliary organization in a time when the Cattlemen's was often a men's organization, and they were auxiliary with that. And then in the 90s, I believe it was, they became Florida Cattlewomen Incorporated. It could have been the 80s, but I believe it was the 90s. They became Florida Cattlewomen Incorporated. And so they were no longer an auxiliary organization of the Florida Cattlemen Association. They were their own standalone business. And they were a place where ladies could get together and talk about the issues of the day and work on, they often worked as a contractor with the Florida Beef Checkoff to do a lot of work in stores and custom and beef demos was a big part of what they did. But as the world changes, they have a lot of very important committees that often mirror our association. I will say this, that we have a lot of female members. We have a lot of female members that are leaders, that are committee chairs, and they've served on the executive committee. We have had a lot, and female, we always have at least a quarter of the FCLA class every year are ladies. Women are absolutely a large part of our organization, and that will continue to grow. But the Cattlewomen, that's how they got it, and that was their past. And we certainly work with them very close. But ladies are more than welcome to be a part of our organization. And There was a fella, my favorite was a fella named Matt Tavridis, big jovial guy out of Orlando. God rest his soul, but he was a Cattlemen's member for years. And he would go to the membership breakfast. Oh yeah, and he'd love to win the door prizes and be part of their organization. So if you're a man and you want to join the Cattlemen's, they will take your dues as well. So they're just another organization that works with us and tries to do what's best for the industry.
Perfect, thank you. I don't see any other questions, so thank you again, President Moyer and Dusty, for being with us today and providing some great updates and great information. Yeah. Y'all are welcome to stay there, or you can sit down if you want to. I just
I
gotta
was
go.
gonna tell folks, are they still on there, or you turn the Zoom off?
Oh, no, they're still on.
Y'all, if you, I know you're watching on Zoom and that's great, but if you ever, want to, I know that the folks here at Ona would love to have you at these events to come here and see the, operation and see a lot of the work that's doing. So for them, I'll have an open invitation. In future years, you're more than welcome to come on down and participate in person.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Dusty. So for those on Zoom and those in-house, I'm just gonna go through the upcoming events that Andrea wanted me to cover. So I'm gonna share my screen really quick. Our next Ona Highlight will be September 9th, same time, 11 to 11:45, with Dr. Moyer talking about gut health, unlocking cow-calf potential with probiotics. So be sure to register for that. I believe Andrea will send out the registration information for that after this meeting. Next, there's a Cattlemen's Roundtable coming up on August 20th in Okeechobee, where the focus will be the National Grazing Lands Coalition. So make sure you attend that. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to the agent in Okeechobee, who is Lauren Butler. That would be a great event. Another one that we have coming up with the South Florida Beef and Forage Program is the annual Herd Health Seminar. That will be Thursday, August 21st from 6 to 8. So it's an evening program. And they're hosting Dr. Bertard, who's going to talk about vaccination protocols and why having a herd health management plan is important. So be sure to register for that. I believe early registration ends this week, possibly today. So be sure to sign up for that. Another program from the South Florida Beef Forage Group is our Winter Supplementation Seminar. That's going to be also an evening program on August 28th. So be sure to register for that one as well. And again, Andrea will send all of these out to you. Another program is Ranching Foundations. That will be October 23rd. That'll be a midday program from 10 to 2:30, where we just kind of talk about beginning small rancher things to help you get started and expand your operations. If you don't already, you can follow us on our website, but also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram for updates on programs like these. And then if you would like to get our weekly newsletter, you can reach out to this email on the screen, and Andrea will get you signed up to receive that newsletter. With that, that is all I have for those on Zoom. Thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.